Hi guys, good morning. Um Sorry about my hair, it looks a bit rough. Yeah. I just did my hair yesterday and I went quite through the big sweat. Like I sweat from literally from my scalp. And yeah, so my hair doesn't look the best. But anyway, who cares? So what I'll be talking about today. I'm still trying to navigate how the camera, yeah, works because if it's a selfie, then everything's on the opposite side. Anyway, yeah, I think everybody knows that. Yeah. So today, I would like to talk about just about how I've stayed motivated and just together. Basically, I don't think that I was always together. Yeah, throughout my journey in life. And I am quite the person to be in my, that's really focused on my emotions, and I'm very in touch with my feelings and yeah, just how I feel in general. Yeah, and I'm also somebody that likes to talk about things that bothers me, and yeah, I'm very expressive. Oh my word, sometimes just a bit too expressive, and then people might yeah think that I'm coming on too hard. Yeah, that's because I have a really big personality. Let's just say that. Yeah. So I don't even know where to start. I don't where to start. There's so much that I can't like. Let's start here. Okay, let's start here. So when I was 19, I fell pregnant with my first child, my eldest daughter, and she's 10 now. So that was quite some time ago. It's like basically almost 11 years ago. Yes. So I was quite young, and this was about a year after I matriculated. So it was, I think it took place down the year that I after school. Yeah. And I didn't handle it so well. Hey, I did not handle it so well. And quite some weird things happened to me. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know. Sometimes I literally would say that I don't know how my daughter even survived in my stomach because of all of the things that happened to me at the time. And I've told the story quite some time. I think quite a few times to people because I don't know. I don't think I'm not. I'm not shy to speak about things that happened to me. And yeah, I mean, things turned out quite well. Not quite well, but I mean, everything turned out to be okay. So I'm not shy or embarrassed about my journey. At the time, I was quite embarrassed, I'm telling you now. Um, if I think back about what happened back then, and it was quite traumatizing to me. It was quite traumatizing. I actually only knew this young man for about 6 months. Yeah, before I fell pregnant, and I think I conceived on the 16th of December. Not I think I know this. I know this for a fact. I conceived on the 16th of December 2016. No, not two. No, no, sorry, not 2016, 2014. I'm so sorry because I gave birth in 2015. Yeah, sorry, my voice is going to do that quite a bit because I have sinuses, and this is probably one of those mornings where My chest is full of phlegm. Yeah, so I'm so sorry if I'm gonna do that quite often. I've quite some weird little quirks that I keep doing, and I don't mean to. Um, anyway, yeah, you guys are probably gonna notice that I'm a very normal, weird person. Okay, so what happened? Okay, I conceived on the 16th of December. I will never forget this because I was out all night that night and I still had a cousin over at my house and she wouldn't go with me that evening. I remember it was the night of the 15th because the next day was the 16th. Yes, it happened obviously, probably morning hours. I'm not sure. And um we I came home the next day. I remember, guys, do not crucify me for this, but I did quite some weird things back then. I remember coming home that day and on the 16th, and I know that I obviously knew that I did something not necessarily bad but wrong the night before because I had unprotected sex and I knew that I did that. And back then there was this method that everybody would recommend you do, well, amongst the young kids or like the young naughty kids, I guess, where they would say that you need to drink paper water. So you take newspaper and then you boil it in water, and then you have to drink the water of the newspaper that you boiled. Okay. So I came home that day. I did this because I was so scared that I would fall pregnant, and I wasn't on any contraceptives back then. Sorry, if I had to go on contraceptives, I would have had to do it secretly, because I was quite the composed young lady where nobody knew that I could also, you know, do what young kids do because I was quite the goody two shoes. Let's just say that the goody two shoes in front of your family and your parents, and then you do naughty things in the back, in the darkness, in the night, in the yeah. Anyway, whatever. A point is just that I used to do naughty things like any other young kid would, and so I drank this water the next day. I remember, and wow, what a journey I had after that. Clearly, nothing happened after I drank this water. Sorry, I don't know if I didn't drink enough or if I didn't cook it properly or what I did wrong because it didn't work clearly. And then I remember 2 weeks after that, I remember the day before New Year's. So the evening leading up to New Year's Eve, I remember that I started not feeling so well because it felt like I was gonna get my period. So I was not feeling well. I'm so sorry, guys. This is something I think should be diagnosed. I keep yawning, and it's a major problem I have. I yawn all day, and maybe there's something wrong with me. I don't know. Because the amount of times that I yawn is absolutely abnormal. Yeah, that's how I feel. So I was not feeling, no, I was not feeling well. Yes, the evening before New Year's. Yeah, the feeling like the hours building up to New Year's Eve. I remember I was at somebody else's house in the neighborhood area close to where I stayed, and I started not feeling well. My stomach was aching. The normal, usual. If you are if you're getting your period. And then I started bleeding way earlier than I expected to start bleeding, because normally I know what my period is like. So normally I know that a few like I would start feeling pain, and then it would be like a couple of hours, or the next day I would only start uh, bleeding. And turns out, yeah, it just came way earlier than I expected, and I started bleeding way earlier. And I actually ended up feeling yeah, really bad, and I went to go sleep early because it was I was getting cold and was too much pain and blah blah blah. So I started bleeding, yeah, just the day before New Year's, the evening before New Year's. And I bled for like I think a week. And there was a lot of things that happened during that time, because I was going to go and meet up with a young man that I was seeing, and they were camping. And yeah, I was going there. The next day I was catching a lift with some family members that was going down to the beach. I was making a real effort to get there this day. I was really, I was naughty. Yeah, that's how I feel. I was an actual grown up, but I was still a child to myself. Yeah, I refer to myself like I was a young, rebelly teen. Yeah. And then the next day I went down to the beach, and I stayed there, I think, like for a few days. I don't know if it was 2 days or something, or 3 days. And I was using the bathroom there. But we also needed to. It was like we were camping in a tent. Guys, I must say that I was not invited to come there, but I forced my way there. I was not invited. His family wasn't happy that I was there. I could feel the tension because I was forcing my way there. I don't even think he expected me to come down there. Oh my goodness. That sounds so terrible now that I think about it. But I remember that I don't think I was wanted there. I was not wanted there. But I forced my way down there. Ooh, and then, yeah, I was there now. So they didn't want to chase me away. I'm assuming. And then while I was down there, I was bleeding a lot, a lot, a lot. I was bleeding. I mean, I was bleeding. I'm telling you guys, bleeding so much. I think I found out later on that it was like a hemorrhage, like you get like, because it's, I don't think, yeah, it's not possible to get your period during pregnancy. So it was definitely something else that took place. Wait, I'm just gonna get the actual name for you guys. Uh yeah, just hold on. Let me just, yeah, I'm gonna tell you guys now what the real name, then the real name is. What is the real name? I'm trying to think now. I only found this out um like few years down the line what actually happened to me that day. I had no idea. Yeah, this is the correct word, hemorrhage. Let me just say. Let me. I'm just looking. I'm just googling this quickly. Yeah, just so that I can get the correct word that I'm looking for. They call it what? So at the time, I didn't know what happened. Okay, so um, it was like yeah, I think it's called yo. I don't even know how to pronounce this word. It says subchorionic hematoma. So it's a collection of blood between the uterine wall and the chorionic membrane, which can cause vaginal bleeding and is one of the most common causes, apparently. So I definitely know that's what happened to me because I was bleeding a lot. I was bleeding quite a lot. And um, so at this point, I was like, what, 2 week, 2 weeks? And I didn't know, I didn't understand what happened. I just thought that I was getting my period like normally. And I played for like a couple of days and I played heavily and it was weird and I just thought it was my period. And so on top of that, it ended up like an infection because something wasn't right. It was like I thought that I had a UTI or something was wrong with me because I was my sinuses, guys, it's acting up, so my eyes are teary and stuff. Also because I'm yawning and what. Yeah. So um yeah, I was bleeding and I thought that I caught like an infection because I was peeing in public toilets. And after I left the camping place, I went back home and I went to go and see a doctor because it was burning when I pee or something was just wrong. I could just feel it was like I was having a it just felt like I was having an infection, like a UTI or something, with the bleeding on top of the bleeding, but the bleeding was starting to die out. But it was still bleeding. And I went to the doctor, I remember, and the doctor asked me if I was pregnant, and I told him I don't know, but I don't think so. But you can have a look, you can test for it. And I think that I don't know if he wasn't able to pick it up because of all of the bleeding in my pee, and because he didn't say that I was pregnant. And I ended up um, I ended up he ended up putting me on medication, and then it was a lot of medication. And it was a lot of medication, and I know it was for an infection. And it was a lot of pills I had to take. And I know there was antibiotics and everything in there. And me not knowing that I was pregnant at the time, I took those antibiotics, and it was probably not something I was supposed to take. And the doctor couldn't pick up that I was pregnant, or I don't know if it was too early in the pregnancy. Maybe I was like 3 weeks around there, around this time, and I didn't know. But anyway, so I was on this medication. But while I was on this medication, I kept on sleeping. And I remember I was visiting one of my family members, my cousin at the time, and I kept on sleeping while I was at their house. And it was so difficult for me to drink medication at the time because it was just making me sleep the whole time. We thought that it's just medication making me sleep because I kept on sleeping, and it just turns out that I was sleeping because I was pregnant. Anyway, so this was now probably like 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks down the line. At the same time, I was doing my normal thing, my normal thing that I was doing. I was catching on stuff that I probably wasn't supposed to be catching on, like drinking and, doing my thing. And one of those days during that time, um, I ended up I'm sorry if you hear people speaking around us. It's because there's people living next to us and they're coming in the yard now, and they're talking really loudly. I don't know if you guys can hear, but I don't know if I should stop the live so that they can finish up and then I can continue. But I don't want to stop the live. So hopefully you can only hear me. So what happened was I was riding bike at the time. So I was young, obviously. I'm doing whatever I want to. I'm riding bike at the time and we used to do it quite often back then. And then what happened was I rode my bike this one time. It wasn't my bike, it was my cousin's bikes. But I was it was the dad's bikes or whatever. And then I was riding with my one cousin this one time, and I just thought I didn't feel well on my way. When we were coming back, we took quite the drive far out, or the ride far out, and I wasn't feeling well coming back. And then she I couldn't continue the ride because I was not feeling well. We came back, but I started walking on our way back and pushing the bike because I was shivering and I wasn't feeling well. And I just wanted to lay down we had to get back, but I wasn't feeling well and I couldn't like get back. So we did it slowly coming back. And I remember I sat like for an hour in the road somewhere and I went to a friend to ask for water and stuff. And yeah, and then I couldn't ride back home with my cousin because I wasn't feeling well and the bike needed to go back home. So I asked my brother if he can assist her and accompany her going back home because I'm not feeling well. When we eventually ended up back home, because it took quite some time because I was not feeling well. So but I didn't know what was happening at that time, so I didn't even know that I something was wrong, obviously. But anyway, the next day I attempt to go back to my cousin. The next day attempting to go back to my cousin. You it was This was a bad one, this was terrible. So the next day I end up going back, and but I was gonna walk back, and I took but no, then I ran into one of my younger cousins, and he had his bike. And I asked him, but because I was lazy to walk, and it was in the heat, it was in summer, and I was lazy to walk, and I asked him, can he give me his bike? And then he walks. He agrees to give me his bike, and I take the ride on his bike. And man, oh man, halfway there, I realized this bike doesn't have brakes. And I still continued to drive because I couldn't stop because it was downhill. And it was horrible, you guys. It was horrible. I was riding this bike and I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop the bike. And you must not know, this road that I'm driving is gravel. So it's sand and gravel, red road. And there was only like bushes around us. And because yeah, I grew up in a very weird place. One day I'll tell you about that. Anyway, so it was gravel and sand, and it was downhill, and it was only the bushes around us or woods, trees, and stuff. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm going downhill. I cannot stop this bike. This bike doesn't have brakes. And I'm thinking, I cannot go straight because then I will go right through the trees and I will have a lot of scratches on my body, is what I'm thinking. And I'm thinking, okay, let me try and go down the hill. But as I was turning to go down the hill, the bike almost flipped with me because I couldn't control the steering anymore. And I went down this hill, and I there was like this huge rock at the end of this hill. It was like a sea rock, but it's been there my whole life. It's been there. And I ended up going straight down into this rock. I mean, it was a really huge rock. And I ended up going straight into this rock because I couldn't turn the bike to go down the road any further because I had no control over the wheel. And I mean, it was like, I mean, I'm talking about steep like this, guys. I'm talking about steep, 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 like this down, going downhill. It was horrible. And I ended up right into the rock and backed. As the bike went into the rock, it obviously threw me off. So it threw me one side, the bike went the other side, and I went over the bike, but to the one side, and the bike went to the other side, and I flew through the air. Ended up getting really hurt. I got scratches all over my hands. I don't know if the bruises are still there. I really think it is. But anyway, I there was this entire part of my arm was open. My my pants that I had on had a hole in it, and my leg was bleeding. My arms was bleeding both, yeah, and my head was spinning. Oh my word. My head was paining. I felt like I died. My tummy was paining. Everything was feeling really weird. And I hurt my leg so much that I couldn't really walk on my leg. And I thought, I'm going to leave this bike here. And I thought, let me get up. Because at this point, I'm red of the dirt, the road, because I told you it's gravel. So I'm red. I'm full of what means it asphalt. Ek is asphalt at this point. Ek is asphalt. No, ek is heeltemal vol stof. So I end up getting up eventually, and I don't know. My cousin wasn't the one that the ones whose bike I took. I know that the steering wheel was like it had like a bump because of how the rock hit it or whatever. But anyway, the bike was a little bit damaged, and I couldn't care about that bike. I left it right there, wherever it fell. I didn't even turn back to go look. I just got up, got the courage to get up because I felt like I couldn't, and I decided I need to walk. I need to walk to my family's house. So I got up there that day. Yo, I was not feeling well. I was really in pain. My hair was standing up, and I walked slowly to my cousin's house, to my aunt and my uncle's house, and I walked slowly just so that I can get there because I was not feeling well. I got there. They were freaked out by the way I looked. And I remember my younger cousin, she was like a baby at the time. She was like 1 years old or something. She cried when she saw me because I freaked out by the way I looked and the blood and stuff. And when I got there, I just wanted water, cold water, and I just wanted to lay down on the floor, the cold floor. I didn't want to be up. I think I went and took a nap, and I explained to them that I got hurt, really hurt, and I fell. And yeah, and I stayed there that afternoon. And I remember my mom came to fetch me because I couldn't walk back home because I hurt my leg a lot, and I couldn't walk back home. And I needed to be somewhere the next day, I think. And my mom was just so worried about me because she thought I had a brain injury or something. And but ever since that day that I fell, guys, I was probably like 4 weeks at this point pregnant, not knowing I was pregnant. And ever since that day, I started feeling extremely sick. I was not eating like usual. Things were not smelling normally anymore. My stomach wouldn't stop paining since that day. My head wouldn't stop paining since that day. And I could barely sit up. I'm not even kidding you. I mean, literally, I couldn't sit up. I would have to lay down. I needed to be skew or laid back. If I sat on a chair, I couldn't sit up to save my life at the time. And this went on for another 3 weeks. I was not feeling well. I was feeling horrible. My stomach wouldn't stop paining. I couldn't get up. I couldn't do anything. I was just sick for another 3 weeks. So at this point, I'm probably almost 2 months pregnant, guys, not knowing what is wrong with me. This is where I started thinking that maybe I'm pregnant. When I told my mom how I was feeling, and you know what? Ever since I fell, I only wanted to drink cold milk. I was drinking cold milk every single day. Like I would drink a liter for myself every single day. Milk was just the best thing I could find at that point. Oh, I love milk. And I'm assuming that was one of the cravings that I had. And not assuming, definitely. And I told my mom, Mommy, I feel like, listen here, my mom wasn't living with me at the time. Me and my younger brother was living to not younger older brother, we lived together. He was like 3 years older than me. He is 3 years older than me. So he was probably like 22 and or 20, yeah, 22, and I was 20 and I was 19 at the time, turning, yeah, 20. And yeah, it was like a few days before, a few months, like 2 months before I turned 20, and he was turning 23 that year. So I was turning 20. He was, because my birthday's early in the year. He was turning 23. I was turning 20. So both adults. Okay. So I started vomiting as well and just feeling sick the whole time. I couldn't sit up, guys. I couldn't sit up to save my life. I swear. And I needed to act as normal as I could in front of people. It was terrible. And I ended up telling my mom, I feel like this and that and that and that and that. And my mom said to me, there is pregnancy symptoms. Are you sure you're not pregnant? And I'm laughing. Guys, this was the biggest joke I ever heard. Because what? Not me. I'm innocent. I don't do stuff like that. What are you talking about? You, I was, yeah, I was thrown back by that statement my mom made. And I remember going around sharing these messages with all of my cousins, and we were laughing, and it was a joke to us. Okay. Meanwhile, the possibility was not so small. So I ended up actually going back, and no, like maybe another week or 2 weeks passed when I took a pregnancy test, because after my mom said that, I actually started thinking about what she said. So at this point, I'm probably 2 months pregnant and like a week or something. And because I started vomiting eventually, and I went and I took a test, and I was distraught, guys, because the test was positive. Oh my goodness. I was distraught about this. I was distraught. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, then I started. Now I knew what was wrong and why I was feeling sick. And then all of the stuff came back to me about how did I bleed, where I had my period. I don't understand. I then had my period. I fell off a bike. I I was feeling really sick. What if the baby got hurt? What if something is wrong? Because I first thought that maybe I heard something inside of my stomach, and I, like, a rub went through something or something. That was my mindset. Okay, that this is why I was feeling sick. Turns out I was feeling sick because I'm pregnant. And I still think I kept the secret for like another month. Hey, oh, I didn't know what to do, because then I started vomiting and vomiting, and I couldn't stop vomiting. I vomited every day, whole day almost. It was bad. And sorry, guys. And eventually, but the thing was, I was still bleeding. I started bleeding, and it was obviously not normal to me. And my mom, I told my mom about, I told her eventually that I was pregnant. And at this point, I was probably like 3 months, I don't know. And I told her that I was pregnant. And because I didn't know what else do I have to tell her. And because I was not feeling well, and because I was bleeding, and because it was like little bits of bleeding, like brown bleeding coming out. And I was sick and I could barely walk, guys. I could barely walk. If I wanted to walk, I needed to walk really slowly, and I needed to hold my stomach because it felt like whatever was in my stomach wanted to fall out. And because I had a lot of pain. Oh, it was just horrible. And I remember that I couldn't walk properly. I walked really slow if I walked anyway. And I, then you heard about um, going to someone to bind your stomach and and to rub out your stomach, something like that. Is just wat noem hulle dit in Afrikaans? I think they say sy word uitgesmeer. Something I don't know, but it was something like that. Sy word uitgesmeer en sy word gebind. Iemand met jou bind. And I actually tried to go through with that, but I think I would have just made a mistake if I did it. And I did go to the auntie, but to the lady, and I ended up running away because I had to go back to go get what do you call it? I don't know, but it's called it's a speld in Afrikaans. Um, I don't know, a pin, like a pin. I don't know, to put on the thing that she was gonna bind my stomach to keep it together. But I ended up not forgetting the thing that I had to take with, and I ended up having to go back home, and I never went back because I was scared and to do this thing that this lady wanted to do. I was scared, and um, so I ended up going to the doctor. I ended up going no, to the hospital, and because I was so scared and because I was bleeding and I was not feeling well and felt like my stomach wanted to fall out, or the insides of my stomach wanted to fall out, and something was just wrong with me. I'm telling you, something was really wrong with me. And I ended up going to the hospital, and I remember, I think it was it early in the morning that I went, or I don't know, I can't remember, but I remember that I was so scared that day. And they obviously checked my cervix. They saw that it was opened up, and there was bleeding, obviously. And I remember that the doctor told me that they were gonna they're gonna have to check if the fetus is still alive or not, because I think they did check if they can hear a heartbeat, and I don't think they could really hear a heartbeat. And then I remember them um check I remember them um saying that they have to do a sonar, yes, an ultrasound, and they did that to check if the baby was still alive. And I remember that that just broke me completely to hear that there's a possibility that the baby wasn't alive. And I remember the doctors changed shifts at that time. I think it was late, honestly. I don't know. I think it was late. But all I remember is that I started bawling, crying, because this doctor just told me that they don't know if the baby was alive and they were going to check. And I remember I still had to wait for this other doctor to come and check. And this other doctor didn't understand why am I crying. He was like annoyed that I was crying because he was like, "No, don't cry. Like what happened? Like why are you crying?" And I told him because I couldn't stop crying. I was bawling, crying. And I told him that it's because the other doctor told me that they need to check if the baby is dead or alive. And they checked, and she was still there. There was a heartbeat. She was there. Um, the heartbeat was just, I don't know why they couldn't really hear it, but and I was on everything. I was on a machine. I was on everything, and I don't know why they couldn't really pick up. Maybe it was weak. I don't know what was. I really don't know what really happened back then. I don't know. I was young and very, very uneducated at the time, so I really had no idea what was happening to me or what was going on. But I remember that after they checked if she was still, if the fetus was still alive, she was, and I was so relieved, but I still cried because it was heartbreaking. The thought of her not being alive was like, not her. At the time, I didn't know what baby it was. I didn't know my whole pregnancy. I didn't know. I was surprised when she was born. Well, it was a she. So, yeah, we now know it was a she. And I remember that I was alone, obviously. And I I had to deal with that on my own, and it was just so heartbreaking to me. And I was just crying. I was crying so bad, and I couldn't stop crying. Not even on my way home, I couldn't stop crying. And I was just so sad. And also because I had to do the whole thing alone. Also because I went through quite some things, and at the time, the guy I was seeing, I wasn't seeing him anymore. At that point, I probably wasn't seeing him for 2 months anymore. We broke up. I broke up with him. I broke it off with him. So, because I felt like he wasn't giving me enough attention or making effort to see me. And yeah, I was just being crazy, honestly, because at the time, hormones was high. I didn't know I was pregnant. And then he was like, okay with me breaking up with him. He didn't care. Um, and then there was a whole month or 2 months later, and then I end up finding out I'm pregnant. This guy and we're not even in contact anymore. What now? I tried telling him about what was happening, and he just didn't care. He kind of just thought I was lying and making it up, and also thought that I was a girl that was sleeping around with other men, and that it wasn't his child, and that I was making the whole thing up. He just thought that I wasn't pregnant, and he told me not to contact him again. So that was the other thing that happened with him. So there was a lot of emotions involved in the whole process of me finding out that I almost lost the baby. So the doctor ended up putting me on bed rest for almost a month, I think. Yeah, for like 3 to 4 weeks. He put me on bed rest, and he gave me medication that I needed to drink every day. Um, to stop the bleeding and to close up my cervix or something like that. I don't know, because at the time I was young, and I didn't really know what was going on, honestly. But as I grew older, I obviously now realized what actually happened to me back then. And they put me on this meds for a month, and they told me I cannot do anything. I mustn't even get up to drink water. I mustn't get up to make myself something to eat. I must just lay. I mustn't make up my own bed. I mustn't sweep. I mustn't do anything. This is what the doctor said. Because if I want to save my pregnancy, I needed to do this. Right. Yeah. And I ended up doing exactly what the doctor told me to do for that month. And my brother helped me. So my mom also told him what he needs to do, and that he needs to help me and make me stuff to eat. My mom would come and she would cook for me in the evening and stuff. So yeah, thinking back, it was all really, really sad, and it was heartbreaking. It took me quite some time to recover from all of that stuff that happened to me. It was traumatic. And yeah, after that month, I think I was like 4 months pregnant at this point. I was 4 months pregnant, and only at 4 months pregnant I could actually walk and just do normal things. And I didn't have to hold my stomach when I walked anymore, and didn't feel like my insides wanted to fall out. And I could walk normally. I could wear normal clothes, because I couldn't really wear anything around my stomach, like ever, because it was too painful at the time. And yeah, I could have a normal pregnancy after that. The vomiting never stopped. I vomited throughout my whole pregnancy, so that was like terrible. But yeah, I could have a normal pregnancy from then on forward. Um, and she was okay. She was okay. She was really okay. And I gave birth a bit earlier, 4 weeks earlier than I was supposed to. But because they had to induce me, because I was borderline preeclampsia, or I did have preeclampsia, something like that. I didn't know what was going on at the time, guys. I was young. I just knew that the sisters didn't want to tell me what was going on because they didn't want to stress me out. I was so relaxed. I didn't even know that something was wrong with me. I just remember that they sent me to another hospital, and I was in the hospital for like 5 days after giving birth, because and they wouldn't even let me walk around. They just had me on machines the entire time, and I had a catheter on the entire time, and they monitored me the whole time. I couldn't even walk anyway. I literally begged them to just let me go to the toilet and poop. I remember. Yeah, but I also had to go through that process all by myself. Throughout my pregnancy, I was so depressed. Was I was a mess. I was depressed. I didn't know how I was gonna do it on my own. Everybody was asking me questions. Where's the dad? I didn't have answers. I kept on having to lie to people because I was so embarrassed about me being pregnant and alone and having to just go through the whole thing on my own. It was really depressing. It was depressing. It was horrible. It was depressing. I Yeah, I don't think there was a day that went by that I didn't cry myself to sleep. So I was going through quite the most. I was distraught during my pregnancy. It was only the day I remember that I gave birth. I just felt that relief, you know. And it didn't even end there. Didn't even end there. I was in the hospital for 5 days all by myself. I remember the only person that came to visit me was my grandma. And I think my friend came to visit me, Annika. I think she also came to visit me and my grandma. And I remember my grandma was crying while I was in hospital. She was unhappy that I had a baby. She felt like I was too young. My grandma was crying. She made me cry the whole time. My baby was crying. I just wanted her to leave at that point and I asked her to bring me some diapers because my diapers, they forgot the diapers at home because it all happened so fast that I couldn't get my own bag, and my cousin brought my bag, but she left my diapers at home. Yeah, and I was just all on my own. I felt I did the whole giving birth on my own, of course. I was in a strange hospital, people constantly monitoring me because something was wrong with me. I didn't know what was wrong with me. It was just terrible. It was terrible. And the day I had to come home, guys, I didn't even know how I was gonna get home. I didn't have a lift. My mom wanted me to get on a bus and come home. I felt too sick and too uncomfortable to get on a bus. I didn't know what to do. I had a baby. I was in Cape Town somewhere, not knowing what to do or how to get home. I didn't know how to take a bus. I didn't know. Guys, it was just terrible. Because my mom couldn't come and get me. I don't know why. I can't remember what the reason was there. And then I found someone that I knew because his wife was also in the hospital at the time, or his girlfriend, and she was also giving birth. And I didn't know her, but she approached me in the hospital saying that she knows me and stuff. And then I ended up talking to her for a little bit, I remember. And then I saw him there this day after I was discharged. And I ended up asking a random person to watch my baby while I ran after this man, trying to ask him, can he please give me a lift whenever he goes home because I'm so desperate. And he ended up saying yes and giving me a lift. And I just remember that the entire time I was just trying to hold it together. I remember that I cried the entire time home, in silence in the back of this man's car with my newborn baby. And it was just a horrible experience that I had to literally hitchhike back home after being in the hospital for a week. I remember. Sorry, it's making me a little bit emotional because just thinking back, it was really traumatic for me, at least. Yeah. And mind you, the baby daddy was still missing. He contacted me and I saw him 2 weeks after I gave birth, I remember. And yeah, he came around 2 weeks after I gave birth, and I let him come and see her. My mom didn't want me to because she felt like he was a total asshole, basically. Um, but she ended up allowing. No, she didn't know I did this all on my own. I did it in secret to let him come and see her. And he ended up bringing a whole lot of drama to my world at the end of the day because some, not some lady or some girl, at the time it was some girl, contacted me a couple of an hour or so after he left, after he just saw for an half an hour. And it was so weird, it was uncomfortable. I didn't know what to say to him. It was the first time I see him in 9 months, and it was weird. Yeah, it was weird. And she contacted me, just going all crazy on me because of the situation. It was his girlfriend. She didn't know that he had a child. She was upset. She kind of threatened and this and that me. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. But at the end of the day, this is something that happened to me. This is a story that happened to me. This is something that happened to me. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And I really, really did my best get through it, to get through it, and to try and stay positive. The one thing that really changed around things for me was my baby. Oh my goodness. She was the most beautiful, most adorable little thing that you could find. Oh my word. I wish I could just show you guys some pictures of her when she was a baby. She was so adorable. Oh my word. She really lit up my world at that point, and she brought me back. She gave me strength to continue to do what I can, praying, staying at the feet of the Lord. I could do it again. I could move on. I could start building myself up, not knowing how. But I remember that throughout my pregnancy and throughout the whole process, my family was really supportive. My cousins, my family was really supportive. My mom was really supportive. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I need to go, guys. I'm getting a call. But thanks for listening to me. Hello?